Hey everyone, it's Joey with Grappone Automotive, and today I have an all-new vehicle in the Mazda lineup. It's the Mazda CX-30. Let's take a look. You may be thinking to yourself, Joey, why does Mazda need another SUV? I thought that too, especially when I heard that it was going to be called the CX-30. Didn't make any sense to me. I didn't get it, but after driving it, it definitely deserves a spot in the Mazda lineup. You'll notice in the front of the vehicle, looking at it, it has the similar design cues as all the other Mazdas, the big gaping grille, the nice LED headlights. But one thing that I noticed immediately when I looked at this car was this chrome trim right here underneath the headlights. It juts out a little bit from the bumper, and it just adds this, I don't know, it's like bulky, a little more masculine. Typically they're a little more luxurious looking, but this chrome trim adds this level of muscle almost to it. It's pretty cool, I like it. It's a nice iteration of what Mazda has been doing and adding a little bit more almost personal flair to this vehicle. Let's pop the hood of this Mazda CX-30. All right, people familiar with Mazda are probably going to be familiar with this engine. This is the 2.5 liter four-cylinder engine that can be found in the CX-5 as well as the Mazda 3. This engine is going to put out 186 horsepower and 186 foot-pounds of torque. When I hear that, I don't get impressed, but driving this car as an everyday car, taking it for a spin by myself, I will tell you that you get the power immediately, and when you're cruising, it just feels like a reliable, sturdy engine, and honestly, in a car like this, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, let's take a look down the side of the car. First thing you're gonna notice, 18-inch alloy rims. You're gonna find those rims on the Select package upwards. The only package that is not gonna include those is the base model. Just keep strolling down the side. Nice side-mounted turn signal lights. It's got this plastic trim around the wheels, which I personally like because I hate seeing rock chips on my painted car. Drives me nuts, especially here in the winter with the salt and you're flinging it up and your car's chipping, you get the touch-up paint, headache, don't want it to rust. Hey, guess what? This is never gonna rust, it's plastic. Cool, I like it. One more thing that's worth noting about the side of the vehicle, the side profile, is gonna be that it's 173 inches long. It puts it at a comfortable 5 inches longer than the CX-3, which is gonna give you a lot more capacity in the long run, and you'll see that in the back. Now let's take a look at the back. I feel like I've seen it before. It's not a bad thing that this looks like the other vehicles. It does look like the CX-3, CX-5, CX-9. This adds a little bit more like flair to what Mazda had, just like the front end does underneath the headlights with that chrome trim. They're just building on this aesthetic that they developed years ago, and they're just slowly improving it, slowly moving it towards that luxury feel. And you know, I think they've got it down at this point. It does feel very luxurious. It's got these lovely taillights that look really great. It's got the CX-30 badging and that classy typeface, as well as the all-wheel drive logo. That is also to mention that this is the all-wheel drive version that we're reviewing right now, that we're walking around right now. That is going to be a $1,400 option. The first time I popped the trunk of the CX-30, I couldn't believe how much space was available to me. I thought that since this is such a small incremental change over the CX-3, or at least that's what I perceived it to be, that there wasn't gonna be much more space, but I popped it and there's a ton of space to do plenty of things. Like I can't think of, at least personally me, what I'd need more space for, personally. And on top of that, you put these seats down, and where the CX-3 offered 12 cubic feet of storage, this offers 20. That's almost double what the CX-3 has to offer for not that big a difference in price, and that's pretty great. One thing about this trim level is it does have the upgraded Bose sound system, so where you find your spare tire, you will also find your subwoofer. And I love that. I just love that. I don't like having a big subwoofer in my trunk, but I love good quality sound, and that's what you're gonna get without sacrificing those cubic feet of space. So we put the seats back up. Let's see how comfortable the back seat is. All right, I will preface this and say that these seats are all the way forward. So I do have plenty of space right now, but I feel like if the driver pushed back any, I might be a little uncomfortable. I am 6'2", so while this definitely is not bad for the kids, these seats are very comfortable. I might spring for the front if I'm this tall. You got an armrest. It's got a couple cup holders. Doesn't have any of that no heated seats or anything in the back like the higher trim levels of the other SUVs, but we have to remember that this is a price point subcompact SUV, and for that I do commend Mazda for making such a luxurious vehicle. Now let's finally check out the front. First thing I thought when I sat in the front of this vehicle was you just feel very deep in the car. Like I feel very comfortable, very in control, and it's actually a wonderful feeling. Like this, a lot of the time in SUVs, I feel very tall, I feel a little out of place, but this, you sit so far, you can sit so far down in this car that this actually feels pretty nice. And it has all the typical Mazda amenities. All your infotainment on this 8.8-inch touchscreen. You have your shifter. You've got your Mazda Connect knob right here. Some very interesting blue accents on the side, which I didn't actually notice until I opened the doors of the car in sunlight and saw it, and I think it looks pretty cool. It's very different than what I've seen before in Mazda. Now you're going to see the Bose badging along the door, indicating that this is in fact the Bose sound system, which sounds awesome. I can't display to you how awesome it sounds without you coming in and taking it for a test drive, because it's just going to sound like whatever speakers you're listening to it on. So, I mean, you come to Grappone and you can have a test drive with this Mazda. Aside from all that, this feels very luxurious, very up to par with what Mazda's been doing lately, and they're constantly getting better. You've got your USB inputs, 2 cup holders, a nice little tray for your stuff. You've got your sport mode toggle right here, parking brake. All it is the typical Mazda parking brake switch. You've got in the armrest, more USB, car charger, and a lot of space. Honestly, this is a pretty long center console here, so you're gonna be able to store a lot of stuff. The seats feel great. The side bolsters are, I mean, at least for me, they're at just the right spots. Like, I feel like I belong in this car, to be honest with you. It feels very good. It feels very tailored to the experience. And you'll see that when I'm driving the car. For a subcompact SUV, not even for a subcompact SUV, just for an SUV in general, this is such a comfortable car. And we are taking off in the 2020 Mazda CX-30 Preferred trim level. And I've got to say, as I mentioned earlier, I feel very deep in the cabin of this vehicle. Everything's very high. It's actually kind of comforting in a way. It's interesting. Initial impressions, the car picks right up, and the suspension is actually, I'm very impressed. It's just, I don't really feel any bumps, and the support that the seat gives you, it feels great. I took this car out earlier and I was just as impressed. I was taking it down some back roads and nothing. Smooth. It just is a smooth, comfortable ride, and with that Bose sound system, I can just see myself comfortably taking road trips. And the gas mileage on this model is great as well. The all-wheel drive is going to support 24 miles per gallon in the city and around 31 on the highway, for a combined about 29. Now, if you opt for the front-wheel drive version, you're actually going to get a little more gas mileage, but there's trade-offs there. You don't get the all-wheel drive, and it's negligible. It's like 1 mile per gallon. I will also mention that this car has auto-sensing windshield wipers, so when it is raining, the car will sense that and just start the windshield wipers for you, so you don't really even have to think about it. I know Mazda is going after the, luxurious segment of buyer, but while this car is luxurious, I think the word that I would use to describe it is sporty more than anything. Like, this is just a very small, peppy car, but it does have enough power to get you out of any situation. Like, I am putting my foot on it right now. Feels great. It feels like just the right amount of power to get you around the city, get you up and going on the highway. Well, I am not in any particular trouble right now. I'm just driving down Main Street in Concord. I will mention that this car has a feature that hasn't been in any Mazda vehicle ever. It's a brand new feature, off-road traction control, and you can turn it on, and if you're in snow, you're in on some slippery surface, mud, anything, it will kick in and help you get out of that situation. Now, none of the other Mazda vehicles, as I said, have this feature yet, but it is coming to the CX-5 as well as the CX-9 in the near future. Okay. And the rest of the safety features are listed here. When you go a little over the speed limit, the speedometer, the speed that you're supposed to be going at, turns red, and however fast you're going over that, you see a little graphic that pops up indicating that you're going, say, 3 over, 2 over, because of course I wouldn't imagine going any more over than that. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, I do really like the way Mazda handles the infotainment system. I don't like necessarily having to fiddle around with a touchscreen. While I do like my Apple CarPlay and everything, I do like the fact that I can put my arm on the armrest and control the screen with the knobs while I'm driving. It just feels a lot safer, and while it may take some getting used to, I appreciate that Mazda has this focus on safety while people are driving. This car actually does in fact have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but only if you get the Select trim and up. The base model does not have these features, so if you're looking for those, you're gonna have to take a step up from the base model.